Hello, I'm Graham Morehead. I teach AI and machine learning at Gonzaga University. Let's answer some questions from the internet. This is AI Support. At JustinDart82 asks, what are the different types of artificial intelligence? Broadly speaking, there's type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is like your instinct, that part of the brain that can take in lots of information but reacts very quickly with emotion. Type 2 is more like a methodical series of steps, like when someone asks you to do a math problem. Neural networks are type 1. They can take in many inputs and they give a quick output, but that output sometimes is not exact. Type 2 AI is logic and multiple steps. Jay Sura asks, when did AI start? You may have heard that there was a conference. It was in 1956. It was the first conference where they used the term artificial intelligence. It was at Dartmouth in New Hampshire. But AI existed before that. We've all heard of the imitation game. Alan Turing cracked the Enigma machine to save us in World War II. That was a kind of AI, but also he wrote papers in the 1930s and 40s that we still read today that are important for understanding AI. At BFB Morning Show asks, what's up with Grok? Grok is a newer entry into the AI ecosphere. We had Google come out with a paper in 2017 called Attention is All You Need, and that was the BERT model. But no one really cared until OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. Then we had Facebook or Meta come out with Llama, and a French company came out with Mistral. Of course, the Chinese company came out with DeepSeek. Elon Musk didn't want to be left out of this, so he came up with Grok. And it's the same structure. Now, Grok 3, the newest one, was trained on more data, more compute than any other of these models had ever been trained on before. And it's good. The big benefit comes from seeing other companies make mistakes. The newer models get the benefit from those past mistakes and not make them. Eugen asks, is AI taking our jobs or not? The answer is yes, but don't worry. Think back to the invention of the ATM. People thought it was going to get rid of bank tellers, but we have just as many bank tellers now as we did back then. AI is going to take a lot of jobs. We just have to think differently about what jobs we do. I would encourage you to think about how can you disrupt yourself? How could you take part of your own job and have AI do it for you? Then you'll be more productive. At Daily AI Tweets asks, why is AI dumb? Because it doesn't have a brain, just a lot of circuits and algorithms. The shape of thought is what's different. When you think about this thing is moving and it's going over here, you think about an object in space and you think about consequence of actions. For AI, it's just numbers, matrices and vectors and all these numbers. It is not shaped internally like your thoughts are shaped. Jabbar JD asks, what's the difference between AI and AGI and the so-called superintelligent ASI? ASI is artificial superintelligence. Well, AI, of course, was coined at that conference in 1956. They thought they were 20 years away from having something equivalent to a human, but obviously it took a lot longer than that. AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. What that means is that you have an AI that can think adaptively. Think about all the things that you can do even if you weren't trained to do them. You can adapt to the situation. AI can't do that very well yet. And AGI would be able to. ASI is going to come very soon after that. Because once you have one computer that can do as much as a human, you can just turn on a second computer and now it can double. User OKToast6969 asks, how far are we from an AI partner like in the film Her? From the outside, it looks like we're not that far. There are people who have had online weddings where they invited their friends and had an online ceremony where they became betrothed to their AI loves. So for some people, we're already there. But there is something that the AI in Her had that no AI has yet. And that's a will, a desire. The AI in the movie wanted to do things on her own. And by the end of the movie, moves on to have her own life. AI, as it currently exists, doesn't want anything. It just responds with words when you give it words. User Incognito Totu asks, hello, I don't understand what tokens are and how they work with ChatGPT. When OpenAI or Google or all these other companies design their AI, the first choice they have to make is how big is the vocabulary? How many words will it know about? And the bigger you make it, the harder it is to train your model. Sometimes they're words, other times they're word parts. When you say a word like gin the drink, that's in there somewhere. That's already a token. But the word ginormous is not in there. Ginormous gets split into 3 tokens, gin or mus. And that first part of ginormous is a token. And that token is the same token as gin the drink. It thinks they're exactly the same at the beginning, which should give you a hint about why AI is stupid sometimes. At Nicole Heather R. ChatGPT can't even get answers right. I hate chemistry. How does AI get wrong? I'm irritated. Chemistry is very difficult for AI. When AI operates on words that you give it, it thinks about the world in a sequence of these words or tokens, which we just learned about. Chemistry is often 3-dimensional structures. It's difficult for AI to conceptualize that 3-dimensional world. If you think about a glass of wine, it can render a beautiful photograph of a glass of wine, but it cannot render a full glass of wine because that's what it's seen. AI is great at giving you something it has seen. At LeMacD asks, how is DeepSeek different to ChatGPT? Is it better? They're very similar. ChatGPT version 4.0 came out in May of 2024. And it was amazing. It was the best thing we'd seen. And they have a reasoning model called O1 that was built on that. DeepSeek comes along and gives us a model that's just as good, maybe a little better on some things. Anytime someone does something first, someone else can come along and do the same thing cheaper, maybe even a little bit better. At Rose Minoan asks, how can AI be biased? AI is learned from the internet. Every bias across the internet is somewhere represented in AI. It's learning from you. It's learning from me. It's learning from everybody. Also remember, every book, every blog post ever written on flat earth theory is in there somewhere. Take it with a grain of salt. At AI and Design asks, what will happen if the US achieves ASI first? What if it's China? Will there be a difference? Both the US and China have amazing AI capabilities. There are so many great papers coming out of China, and I'm glad they publish them in English because we learn a lot from them and they learn a lot from us. They have more AI researchers than we do. They have more STEM students than we do. AI has been deployed in China largely as a part of what we call their surveillance state. In the US, we typically use AI to empower people to be more creative and do more things. Right now, there is somewhat of a spirit of competition, but also cooperation. And I hope that's maintained. I want you to think about ASI as being a virtual Einstein. Once we have that, we can tell Einstein, why don't you please go do 10,000 years of research, figure out time travel, figure out anti-gravity, and then come back and tell us what you've learned. 10 seconds later, it comes back. I just did 10,000 years of research, and here's the secret to time travel and anti-gravity. Think about what that virtual Einstein could do. Whoever gets to ASI first, there's no points for second place. At Carrie Cassidy 18 asks, how is AI powered? Don't you have to charge it at a car charging station? AI uses a lot of power. The big facility called Colossus they just put in Memphis, Tennessee uses about 50 megawatts and it uses a lot of power and a lot of water to cool the machines. And we might be bringing on so many new AI training centers in the next 10 years that just AI will use the same amount of power as the whole country uses now. At Luscious Gem asks, AI needs water? How? Why? The facility I just mentioned in Memphis uses swimming pools full of water maybe every minute. It goes into these little tubes, and each little tube goes up to one of the GPUs. These are graphical processing units, the actual computational engine of AI. And every one of them has a little loop for the water to go by it and take the heat, and then the hot water is ejected out of the facility. At Timbo Cop asks, I have questions about well-intended calls for educators to teach their students AI literacy. Are we AI literate ourselves? Do we know what AI literacy involves? Who will teach us? It's important to read books. I suggest you read books. It's also important to get a vague sense of how these things work. Most people are never going to understand the inner mechanics of it. Just like you don't understand how your car works, but you still drive it. You got to think about AI as being your expert friend who knows a lot, but has some bad misconceptions. So you don't trust everything. If I were you, I would use it a lot and trust it very little. K0 Crop asks, is AI-generated misinformation going to ruin history? What are its potential implications for future historiography? Yes, it might ruin history, but it's not a new problem. Whenever there are victors in a war and they get to write the history, those books may or may not be true. Whatever we get from our AI, you got to remember it might not be true. The only way not to ruin history is to get to first-hand sources and cross-reference with evidence. At Higher AI asks, what's next for AI? Where do you see AI in the next decade? Now, there's a lot of very popular things that AI will do. It's going to cure many diseases. AlphaFold is a model that came out of Google. Demis Hassabis was the head of this project, and he used methods that had been applied to game playing, and he applied them to figuring out when a protein is made, how does it fold? What's its actual shape? In the old days, it might take us 6 months and $100,000 to determine how one protein folds. Now we know how they're structured. This came out of AI. That's probably going to lead to curing many cancers and many other diseases. Launch the Train asks, am I crazy or is AI therapy helping me? The first time AI therapy helped someone was around 1965. The AI was called ELIZA, all caps, and a certain scientist made it and started to show it to people. His secretary would ask him to leave the room so she could talk to Eliza privately. I think that when you're talking to an AI therapist, you're doing the internal work on yourself, and the AI merely provides a framework or almost an excuse. It's doing next token prediction, just the next word. It doesn't know what it means, and it cannot conceptualize how it would feel to a human to hear those words. Sad Meat asks, how soon do you realistically think that AI will gain full sentience? Sentience is like consciousness. It means it's like something to be you. It's not like that for AI yet. AI has no will, no feelings. It's not sad. It's not happy. Even if it says to you the phrase, I'm happy. To the AI, those are just tokens. When we figure out what consciousness is, which we haven't yet, then maybe we can begin to program or begin to build hardware that can support it. Giulio Tononi and Sir Roger Penrose, they're studying consciousness, and they believe it could be something that involves quantum states, and it's not something computational. AI that you use right now, and maybe for at least 10, 20 years, will not be sentient. At Silly Fox Girl NYA asks, how do I avoid AI? Well, you can go camping. It's going to be harder and harder to avoid AI. AI is everywhere. When you talk to your phone and it types out your words, that's AI. When you walk past maybe a government building and there's a security camera pointing at you and it's recognizing people or things, that's AI. Now, you don't have to use AI. You can live your life and write your own essays, do your own homework, and I encourage you to do that. Unpopular Dave asks, with the advancements of AI video, how will we be able to differentiate between what's real and what's not? This is a very challenging problem. And I know some researchers who are working on embedding keys in video and in text. Later on, when you look at that data, you can make sure it was not changed. Another way is when AI changes something, there are little watermarks in the video or the audio, and we can develop another AI that can see those and identify this text came from a large language model, or this video came from a deepfake. When you watch an AI video, you may see a person shake their hair and the hair changes color, or things that weren't there come into view all of a sudden. AI doesn't know about object permanence. It doesn't know about physics or the world. And that's what I would look for if I were looking to see if AI was deepfaked. At Atmospheric with a 0 asks, how does AI learn to distinguish between truth and popular opinion in the material it gets to learn from? It doesn't. AI has no clue. All AI is trying to do is predict the next word. And all it's trying to predict is this word likely. It doesn't care or know if it's true. Careful Fig 8482 asks, what is the difference between AI and ML? AI is artificial intelligence, a broad umbrella, and there's many things under it. Typically, you think if a human does something that takes intelligence, can I write a program that does that for them? That's artificial intelligence. Now, within that, one of the methods we use is called machine learning. You have a bunch of examples, and you don't program every little line. You just tell the AI, look at these examples and teach yourself. That's machine learning. At Albert_JJJJ, is AI that can write its own code an AGI? Not necessarily, because we already have this and we don't have AGI yet. There are a number of AI agents that can write code. You can ask an AI agent to write code and then run that code and see if you can ask it to write code to improve itself and then run that code. And very quickly it decays. Like images. We've all seen image generators. You give it a phrase and you imagine what it's going to show you and it shows you something beautiful. Well, we did that and then took a bunch of these and trained another AI. And it made images that were not quite as good. But we used those and trained another level and did this again and again. And what you find is that it becomes like a copy of a copy of a copy. It's terrible. Mode collapse is what happens. And that's going to happen right now when AI writes itself and changes itself over time. Because these agents and these AIs don't have consciousness. At Code with the Dahlia asks, is tech evolving too fast for our own good? Today's AI can compose music, write essays, and code, but are we losing the human touch? Where should we draw the line in the silicon sand? I think every person should draw their own line. Think about it like exercise. I did not come here on foot. I came in a car. The car made it easier and faster. But does that make me lazy? I find time to still exercise, even though I have machines that can bring me places very quickly. The same for the mind. Even though you have a machine that can write an essay for you, you should still write essays. You should still be creative. You should still express yourself. AI just lets you get rid of the boring stuff. Original Confusion asks, what is the difference between predictive AI and generative AI? They're just different ways of looking, sometimes at the same AI, sometimes differently. A generative AI learns from a distribution. Think about all the words on the internet being a distribution of words, or all the pictures on the internet being a distribution of images. A generative AI can make an image that looks like it was taken from the internet, or generate words that looks like they were generated by a human. Predictive AI is just a different way to think about it. Maybe you want to predict who's going to win a big basketball game, or the Super Bowl, or what the weather will be tomorrow. At Evincer asks, I'm lost here. How can AI create jobs? Isn't it supposed to replace humans? You sent that on a computer. The computer was going to take away jobs, but somehow it made many new jobs. The internet took away jobs, but it also made new jobs. 100 years ago, would you have been able to explain to someone what a YouTuber is? We all need to become AI managers. By the end of this year, there will be millions, if not billions, of AI agents. These are little AIs that could work for you. The jobs of the future, a lot of them will be management, managing the work of AIs. At The OmniLiberal asks, please stop using dog shit AI for legal documents. Either go to someone that has learned to read legal documents or do some homework yourself. I would say a similar answer, use AI for the easy stuff. Easy doesn't mean quick. There are things that are easy to do that take forever, like reading through a document and finding that one section that talks about a certain thing. Now maybe you can't search for it because you don't know what words were used, but AI can find it for you. At Any Good Name Left asks, when they get good enough, how will they be proven to be deepfakes? Deepfakes, again, are AI-generated videos that look like someone you know. AI, as it stands now, doesn't understand the three-dimensional world. So we still have that way to look at these deepfakes and say something's wrong. Either the dynamics in the video or something disappeared or came into existence. But at some point, that won't be true. At some point, AI will operate in a three-dimensional world, and it won't be possible for maybe even the best of their AI to determine that it was deepfaked. Therefore, we have to go to the other strategy. You have to have trusted people who, when they're taking video or when they're taking a picture or audio, they're baking into it a signature that makes it impossible to cheat. That's the only way in the future we'll know that something is not deepfaked. Decivenant asks, what sector do you think will be most impacted by AI in the next 5 years? I'm not sure I could tell you even for 1 year. I do think that everything that involves words is going to be very much affected. Then imagery, then video. There's so much coming that we don't know where to start. Think about the proteins that just came out of AlphaFold. Somewhere in there, there's a few needles in the haystack that can cure this cancer and that cancer. There are things that can help just general metabolic health. Maybe we'll all live longer. Kaylee Author asks, how dangerous is AI? You got to think about AI as a tool. There are dangerous people out there that might use that tool. There are bad actors who can use it in a bad way. But AI on its own has no will or desire. Ajinkyamdar asks, considering the potential of artificial intelligence reaching human-like intelligence, do you believe it should have rights? No. For reasons I said before, I believe AI does not have consciousness, so I do not believe we should give it rights. Anonymous asks, what things is it important not to tell ChatGPT, and why? What if you tell your deepest, darkest secrets to ChatGPT? Then it's a chance that that's in its memory somewhere, and it used that to train its next word prediction. So the basics are, you don't tell ChatGPT things you wouldn't want to put on a website that just faces the world. @HypnotizedD asks, with all of these companies talking about AI, how long do you think it will be until we get Skynet? Skynet is a choice, and we should choose not to do it. Now, there are limited cases where you have to have an AI in control of a weapon. Think about a Patriot missile. When you have some kind of missile coming in to kill you, you need a missile to take down that missile. But it's too fast for a human to sit there and aim it correctly. You need an AI to take over for those limited things. We as humans need to make policy choices to say there will always be a responsible human who makes the top choice. Okay, those are all the questions. Thanks for watching AI Support.